Welcome to Death Metal Pug. I'm Philip H. Pugselmo. I want to be a rock star when I grow up. The purpose of this is to have fun and talk about music. I'd like to thank Ozzy Osbourne for being on last week's episode. Do you think it's too mean if I say I'm glad we got Ozzy on because he's going to die soon? Did you see that giant tour they're doing? Yeah, it's in like England or something. Looks pretty good, but like I don't know how they're gonna do it, man. They're just gonna like levitate Ozzy's corpse or something up there. I understand he's gonna play some songs or something. Be cool to go to, but you know, wouldn't be the best Ozzy concert I've probably been to. I think the first time I saw Ozzy was in high school, and he was on tour, and it was the Back from Retirement tour thing, and he had Korn open for him, these up and comers. So I can't remember exactly. That was probably like, that's probably like 95, 96. Can we look that up? Today is March 31st, 2025. I will talk about Imperial Triumphant, Cradle of Filth, Gates to Hell, and SpiritWorld. I've been listening to a lot of Meshuggah, getting ready for the show at the Aragon Ballroom tomorrow. They're just so ahead of me. They've been ahead of me, like, you know, my entire life, I guess now. Meshuggah are just such a smart band. I complained that the length of the last album was too long, but man, like you just break it up and you hear how methodical it is in a good way. They change from sounding like smart controlled chaos to smart controlled music on this album. Like each note is just placed, you know, perfectly. Is the banner crooked or just the camera crooked? Am I crooked? I say we just roll with the W the whole time. Imperial Triumphant's music sounds like a metal toolbox filled with ratchets falling down flights of metal stairs, but there's an accordion stuffed in one of the drawers, and there's guitars. This is generally referred to as avant-garde death metal, but if you even know what that means, then you've already heard of this band. This is their 6th album. It's the 3rd one I've ever heard on this new album, Goldstar. The shortest song is 47 seconds, and it sounds like the Toolbox reference earlier. The longest song on this album is 7 minutes long, and I believe it's the album Closure, which I like that one, and I think I like the longest song and the shortest song the best on this album. But 7 minutes is actually kind of short on most of their albums. Most of their album runtimes are an hour, at least an hour, something like that. I've always had a hard time connecting with Imperial Triumphant. Just not there yet. My gosh, what a coincidence in relating to Meshuggah. Meshuggah, the same thing. It took me a while to kind of come around and get used to it, and so I kind of understand that as well. And music can be that way, where it's too much at first one time, but then after a while, in the right moment, or the right understanding, or the right unlocking of other groups and bands and things and understanding, then it clicks into place. So Imperial Triumphant is probably one of those instances. Sounds like a lot more people may listen to them than I think probably actually understand and like them. I would go on a hunch saying, because it is challenging music. Another Meshuggah reference related to this is the drummer Thomas Hoctua. He is on 2 tracks on this in some fashion. Dave Lombardo, speaking of drummers from Core Slayer and like 20 other bands now, he is on this thing, and you understand the song he's on because there's like quadruple the drums at some point on that thing for it. So check this out. This is something interesting. It's something that moves our music forward, and I think there's a lot of value in something like that. Dude, I went back and watched like one of these videos the other day. They are not good. Speaking of like interesting music, I thought I'd bring up this week this Corpus Offal album. Regret the pronunciation if I'm messing that up. Cerebral Rot members reorganization or something, and I didn't have time to like figure out what the problem was there. But we have this new band now. The name of the band means like the inside parts of an animal, so that's fun. You know, that kind of goes with the theme here of what we're hearing. Muddy, busy, death metal, swampy, gross, just death metal riffs, longer songs than you might think for it, and just a whole album of just stuff. Sometimes on these kind of things, and I remember Cerebral Rot as well, it's hard to like take something away, right? Like a riff, a melody that you carry with you. So you either have to, it either doesn't exist, or you need to listen to it a bunch more times to kind of get the hooks and unlock it. You know, if you kind of vibe with it, this might be one of those albums, something to check out. That was Durkee. Speaking of death metal, Gates to Hell released an album called Death Comes to All, and the whole thing is about death and dying and going to hell or not or something like that. This is no bullshit guitar-driven death metal. It doesn't have the cavernous vocals, which actually to me on my ear is a little like relieving, right? Like everything doesn't have to be cavernous nowadays, right? So I like it. It's good. The whole thing is a tight 20 minutes. There are, more than 3 songs on the thing, but they're just a minute to like 3 minutes long. A few go a little bit over. When I got this, I was kind of like heard it and I was like, yeah, let me give that a shot. Woo, sounds popping, sounds wonderful right out the album. Sent over to a buddy as like a recommendation, and then later I felt a little embarrassed. I was reading the review in Decibel magazine. Aren't we lucky to have something like that? And they gave it a 4. They gave it a 4 basically due to like derivative. There's nothing new here. You've heard this all before, and that is absolutely true, but it is a lean piece of meat, right? So slightly death metal, but a bit opposite from the prior album we just talked about. And this inside of the guts is more like a very lean muscle, not internal organs, that is drilling this out. I mean, I thought it was a lot better than that. I thought it was a lot of fun. Will it be something that I'll remember later? We'll see. It seems like something you just always put on and have a nice time with. So, Gates to Hell, Death Comes to All. Cradle of Filth released their 68th album titled Screaming or something. I listened to the first 3 songs on this album, and then I turned on The Principle of Evil Made Flesh. It's Cradle of Filth. It's exactly, if you like the past, you're gonna like this. So Cradle of Filth is the first black metal band I ever heard, being a poor kid growing up in rural Illinois. It was Cruelty and the Beast. Cruelty Brought Me Orchards, that album. And then I just was like, wow, this is interesting. And I went back, and back then, I hope you know that back then, like, you didn't just have stuff. You didn't have their whole album on your phone. I'm still marvel at that, how that exists. I remember wanting for a very long time, over a decade, the Vampire EP. I had not even heard it, wanted it, but I knew you could order and buy it, and it came from Europe, and it cost like a lot of money. Like, I have to send them like $40 in the 90s to get like a CD, right? Like, that was outrageous even by standards then. So it ended up being the Principle of Evil Made Flesh, and of course Dusk in Her Embrace, right? That was the album that just for me was like, holy cow, this is amazing. That album The sequence of songs in the middle are just incredible. Gothic romance, Carpathian forest. It's such a great album, and I totally have always respected that group. I really have, all the way through Nymphetamine. Godspeed was good, I remember. Seems like I Bowed Out or Had a Dip, and then the Frost on the Pillow album. Like those songs. Was it Manicore or something? And then just how they kind of built that out was a lot of fun, and it was a little less story and drag and more like cuts or tracks or something on that one. But just Cradle of Filth, go for it, right? It's been fun. It's an old death metal band. It's probably one of the longest running. Can we fact check that? Probably not. Nobody's gonna have time to look that up. I've seen Cradle of Filth a few times. I'm pretty sure one of the last times I saw them, Typo Negative opened for them, and Typo Negative was, people gotta understand, and I understand there's like more talk about them nowadays, it seems like, for some reason. Typo Negative was like opening for like all kinds of bands in the 90s, just all the time. So I have seen Typo Negative so many times, and all the things you're hearing are absolutely true. Really good music, really good live. Peter Steele would stand up there and would drink, he would set on his PA, he would drink an entire bottle of wine during the performances. He would finish up like a 10-minute opus of a song, then he would just go back to his PA, pick up, grab his wine, just chug it straight from the bottle, go back, put it back, and he would drink that thing during the actual performance. Many times I saw this. I don't know about the end. At that Cradle of Filth show, Cradle of Filth had one of those like athlete or performers that hang on a cloth, like a straight dangling cloth down, and then they like do contortions on it where they twist themselves around the cloth and like get their legs wound up or like roll up and roll down in it, and they like had this go on for like during their like 3 of their songs during that concert. So this person was doing this in the background of like them just ripping through, just vicious black metal. I remember back then they played a lot of the hits, like the bit of the older stuff. Very Nymphetamine heavy. I think that might be the popular album. So, Screaming, check it out. Cradle of Filth, some fun, good memories there. Let's talk about SpiritWorld's new album, Helldorado. A couple years ago, SpiritWorld released an album called Death Western, and a lot of people really liked it. I never was able to connect with it, and I'm not sure why, right? Found the whole thing a little, I don't know, it just was kind of not that interesting to me on the ear, and then the like cowboy stuff didn't click on Death Western for me to like make it interesting. I do have a bit of a country music background, not myself like playing it or anything like that, although I did have a part-time job at a country music radio station for a couple of years. So that was they played like country music, but it was like in a small town and stuff, and like so it didn't always have to be like that bad kind of 90s country music. Like I got an appreciation for stuff, Johnny Cash in particular, and I know that's incredibly cliche now, but what he's done and come up in those redone songs that were rock songs, and then how he has just become a legend through movie and book, and passing away and all that stuff since then. And then my father as well, he was like, he listened to like country music, like the Outlaws, so Merle Haggard and Johnny Cash, and ones I can't come up with right now, but he was into it, so I'd hear it. He one time had like a Willie Nelson cassette tape stuck in his truck for like years, so like that was the only music that would function in his car, was a Willie Nelson tape. it couldn't come out. So there's some country music background. Obviously it didn't sink in that much. But back to the album, this Helldorado, right? New album, Western themed. Another cliched like Western name, I guess, again on it. So I should mention I have seen them live. I think they were part of what I think was a big Decibel magazine tour. That night was awesome. So many weirdos there, different kind of people. I'm not excluding myself in that, just kind of saying that was kind of cool. I think, was that the one with Municipal Waste? And then like there were wizards there. But I've seen them live. I didn't anticipate like the Western wear and the actual like old school way they used to dress for country music. So one time I was in Nashville, Tennessee, not for this purpose, but I did go to the Country Music Hall of Fame, and it's super interesting. And the thing that stood out, and it kind of has a connection with our music to a degree as well, was like costumes, the way they wore stuff. Originally, way back when, they would have like these whole big done up, you know, obviously outfits and this literally the rhinestones and stuff on it. It was a huge part of it, and the people that made this stuff were an important part of the music back then as well. They even got to Taylor Swift and modern stuff. Big Chris Stapleton section. I didn't realize he had done so much music for other people that was so award-winning before he did it himself. What the hell are we even talking about? SpiritWorld's Helldorado album. So the first song right out the gate, right? They tell you it's a bigger Western influence, okay? You hear it musically this time. It speeds up until it basically becomes Slayer. Then, you know, the next song, No Vacancy in Heaven, is kind of boring until the Slayer parts, the triplets, you know, how they kind of lay that out. But it's like a clean Slayer sound, not like a, you know, South of Heaven busier, but more like just the sweet and isolated parts of just kind of their shtick, I guess, for it, right? Just more God, good, evil stuff. Very repetitive in the lyrics. It has the song, you know, the second song, No Vacancy, it has a false ending, which, you know, it's okay. It's kind of cool, but it's weird because it's the second song in the album. The song Bird Death, the song Bird Song of Death is a country ditty. I think I hear steel guitar. The non-hardcore vocals just, they sound like when, you know, Rancid singer got older and it's just that raspy voice, like it's not an interlude, it's not a joke, it's 3 minutes long. The next track, Prayer Lips, is probably the worst moment on the album. It just repeats, gonna love you babe until the world ends. It's just there's so much like, it's just, there's a lot on this thing that feels like it wants to be like together, but I don't understand how it's fitting together. Does that make sense? Like, I get the country stuff and the Western stuff and that, and the thrash metal, right? The sweetest moments from like, you can kind of pick them out in certain spots. Like, oh yeah, that's Testament, that's Slayer, you know, that's like Crater. But it's like, it doesn't like piece together very well. And then, you know, right after there's another slow track, you know, like the Blues Brothers. We got both kinds of music, country and Western.
Oh, we got both kinds.
Yeah.
We got country,
you know, and then, you know, it's like, it had to have been a meaningful way. It's like they added the other country track on purpose. Or, you know, it just needed a spot on the album, and it probably just stood out more between, like, you know, the other thrash stuff, right? And breaking it up too much, and like, you know, so they had to pair some of it together. And it's got a saxophone end, so spoiler alert on that. The album then rolls back to thrash for a bit. The song Oblivion opens with the cool thrash part. It's got the best, like, sharp, tight thrash bar chord progression on the album. The Black Braid mastermind's voice is part of this, saying Suzabog, and he's awesome. It's good to hear him, or interesting to hear him, out of context from his own project that, you know, he just is the mastermind of. To hear his voice and hear it stand out and be so powerful as part of this kind of music. And this track is not a country twangy little song here. It is, you know, a metal song, probably probably the only song in the album worth listening to again, you know, maybe in my opinion here. But to hear it cut through and still work really shows how powerful he is and how amazing what he does really is. Then we move to the end of the album, and it is a bad sequence of like an interlude track after that last Rager. And then it's smushed in like that 7-second Dark Throne like lag between songs. It's just dead air, leading to the song Stigmata Scars. Stigmata Scars on my hands, just repeated over and over. It's just a weird song. And it's like, what does this have to do with everything? Like, I've tried to like read, you know, the lyrics, and maybe there's something I'm not putting together, like really just spending time for some reason on this, and I don't get it. It comes across like, quite frankly, a little childish in some ways. It's not dumbass pizza thrash kind of thing, but it's just like it's trying to be. You know, like if the whole Motley Crue album, Shout at the Devil, was like, had Shout at the Devil type songs, but like not all of them worked, right? Or all the little side tangents worked, it'd be very difficult. So it's, you know, it's sometimes it comes across a little childish. Nihilism, is that a word? Acoustic guitars. It's singing like, I got my baby's blood on my hands. I can't link this to what's going on in the album. I feel like it's trying to tell a story, kind of like how a good country song or certain ones will like tell a whole story. I drove my semi through a hotel to kill my cheating wife. You know, that's a very popular country music story, and I just told it a little more succinctly, right? The thing sounds good. It's loud, the guitars are clean. The guitars are the best part, like let them go ham. There's a lot of cool little riffs on this, like fun stuff, you know, that you're like, oh wow, instantly that's the sweet moment in that song, you know, kind of thing. You know, some positive stuff from this. I think this might be a good like gateway album into like weird and heavier stuff. Think about the things we've discussed today, all the different kinds of music, and like how challenging that is. Some of that swampy, glumpy, gooey death metal, that avant-garde death metal, black death metal, off, you know, use the sub eighths in the third scale of the triarchy, and then you're not playing the third counter note, and then that's how it sounds like that. No one of us can understand that, but we start to unlock it, and some people can. And so like things that kind of bridge stuff to things, you know, that can have an impact, right? And so used to be a little more bothered by it, like that's not good, but in some ways it leads people to the things that are so much better. And you know, there's some positive stuff in that. Gateway album, you know, can be, I think, and kind of link folks, kids like the old thrash and new stuff that sounds like old thrash, and then, you know, here's a little something a little different, and then it kind of gets into like, you know, more complex stuff. I'm not a fan of the vocals. I just would like to hear it with somebody different, and sorry to hurt feelings there. Not the part that I thought was the best on this thing, and the part that would bother me on the album. I'd be like, yeah, the vocals, why does it sound like that? And it'd be neat to hear like somebody else doing it, quite frankly. So yeah, so SpiritWorld Helldorado. Oh yeah, man, I'm excited. Yeah, yep. I'd say Carcass is the one I haven't seen as recent. The other one's more recent, yeah. Let's wrap this crap up. That's it! The Metal Boom!